So if you guys haven't watched any of my videos before, I have been somewhat losing my mind, finding it again and then losing it again. Um, so I was able to get quite grounded today with a friend, and it just became clear to me that I've I'm a type of person who doesn't even want to use a recipe because I feel like it's telling me what to do, right? So ever since my Kundalini awakening, life's been very different. And I wanted to, because it's hard and it's good and it's bad. It's all of the things. And whether this is real or not, anyway, I'm not going into that. But I wanted to share my experience. A, so that anyone else can feel like they're not going through whatever they're going through alone. And B, because I wanted to document it, and I think this is a great way to do it on YouTube. So what I've realized is I might need some discipline in being able to hopefully travel through this at a more calm way. Because like flying by myself, flying solo, and I'm in contact with the yogi, which is, I haven't given enough gratitude to be able to have that experience. And she just led me. Well, she's tried to tell me, I don't know how many times, to read this book by Gopi Krishna called Kundalini, the Awakening of Energy in Man, or something. And I know if you've watched me before, I'm terrible with names, but there's this very specific book, and I think it's yellow and it's got like symbols on it. Listening to that, even half of it today, has helped me a lot, because there's certain things that can be done in the way of how you live your life and practices that can probably assist what's happening. And the biggest thing I've learned so far is that there's a lot of fucking information out there, and there's so many stories, and there's so many people who want to tell you what things are. But I'm going to document exactly what I'm going through when I'm going through it. And you'll see my other videos, I don't really hold anything back. So I thought with the first one, I will talk about my actual Kundalini awakening. So the first, before my near-death experience, so I might explain that first. So in 2020, I got thyroid cancer. Well, I felt a lump on my thyroid, and I kind of knew straight away that it was cancer. You know how you just know things. Anyway, so I ended up getting convinced. So then it was this full pandemic. Everything was happening at once. So they were rushing me into surgery because they said, if you don't get in, the hospitals will be full, rah, rah, rah. So I got in, and I got the right side removed, which was where the lump was. And then they tested it and it was malignant. So they said, we want to go in and take the left side out, because I was hoping to keep half the thyroid. And, the fear was all there. I had family telling me, I just, like, keeping some of your thyroid's a good idea. And I was just in complete fear because I didn't really realize any of natural anything or anything phenomenal, any other sort of way of life at that stage. And anyway, so I went for the second surgery, and during the surgery, I woke up. So I became aware Sorry, there's a puppy across the road and all the dogs in the street are going mental. So I became aware and awake during the surgery. So I could see and hear. I had the anaesthetist on this side and the which is quite funny because he was dressed like Darth Vader, right? How weird is this? In this spacesuit because it was COVID and like with an oxygen thing. It was in this full black thing on the left, right? And then the surgeon, who's all in white, in a similar like a face shield and whatever on the right. And if you know about your feminine and masculine, like the yin and the yang and the black and the white, it's very interesting. And that's how, like, if reality is just a mind creation, like it all fits. Anyway, so I could see and hear them talking. I can't remember what they were saying, but then I could feel the surgeon like ripping off the stitches on my throat from the first surgery. And I was like, oh no, I have to tell them I'm awake. Like, I'm awake. And then I was like, went to talk and I couldn't talk. And then I was like, oh, went to move my hands, like stop. I couldn't move my hands. And so obviously I went into a state of panic and I was just trying to do anything. My heart's racing. Well, I felt like my heart was racing, or I just was like overloaded with panic. And I was like, I just need to move like one finger just to like show them I'm awake before he cuts into me. And when I couldn't do that, I was really like to the epitome of freaked out. And so I just thought, I'll just try my hardest to scream. It was like in a dream where you're so, like, often you'd wake up, right? But when I went to draw in a breath to try and scream, I realized I couldn't inflate my lungs. I couldn't breathe. And that was a whole other level of panic. And so I fought and freaked. And then I just gave up because there was nothing I could do. And I was just like, well, I remember thinking, I wonder if this is what drowning feels like, because it was like, because I couldn't breathe. And then just when I surrendered, this whole blanket of calm just came over me. And it was just like this deep peace. And then I just sort of faded into black. And sometimes I wish that dog would fade into black. And then it was when I woke up, like actually physically woke up. So everything went to black then, and I don't remember anything else. And hang on. And then when I actually woke up after the surgery, the whole world looked different. I looked at the doctor, the surgeon, apart from me going, I was awake, so I could remember everything. And they tried to say it was called anesthesia awareness. And I think one of my very first, if not my first video on this channel is me talking about that, because I believe the clinical reason for it. And it was sort of like just giving someone to blame or something to blame. Anyway, I looked at the surgeon and I was like, you're no different than me. You just read a book. You just went to a school. Like, you're no different than me. And when I'm saying that, some people might understand, but other people, it was like, you know, to me, when you're told you've got cancer, you're looking for someone to save you. And, you know, from the grooming from when we're children, it's a doctor that's going to do that. No way would you be able to save yourself. There's always someone that can save you. And at this stage, it was a doctor. And after what happened to me, he looked very different. And things were very different because I was like, I was awake. And how is that saving me? So after that, I went to I went to the appointment and he told me to get radiation. And I actually recorded this appointment on my, on voice record. And my husband was there and he was very much in fear and saying what about us if you don't get radiation and it comes back and you die or whatever. And I was like, hun, radiation's going to kill me and everything in my body. So it's not an accident that all this happened as it did, when it did. Because my doctor was sitting there saying over and over again, you need to go get radiation. You need to get radiation. I said, no. Then he said, just go to the clinic and just so I can tick it off the list. And I just said, no, I'm not fucking going. And then he said, oh, I wouldn't either if I was you. Which was awesome that my husband was there because he then heard that too. And I said, why? Why would you sit there and tell me to go and get radiation when you knew or you wouldn't even do it? And he said, well, it's my job. He said, once the removal of your thyroid in your age, you could be doing more harm than good. It's like, his words, it's like drowning an entire country for a house fire. That's what he said about radiation after a thyroidectomy. So I'm not telling anyone medically anything and what they should do medically, but I can explain and express my story exactly how it happened. Anyway, it was a beautiful gift for my husband because then he could start to see the crack that I could see very clearly in the whole system since I've, had that near-death experience. And I believe that was the initial activation of the Kundalini because depending on, a lot of the books say it's like a traumatic event. It can be an accident or a near-death experience or like extreme loss or like depression to the point of no tomorrow sort of thing. And I believe that's when it got activated. It wasn't until a couple of months, so that was May 2020. A couple of months later, I think it was like November, I had this experience when I was sitting in my cousin's house and I'd never even heard of Kundalini. And we'd been doing a 21-day meditation. And I'm not saying do this to activate your Kundalini because I'm pretty sure it was already activated. But it was a Deepak Chopra 21-day meditation, which I do recommend if anyone wants to try meditation for the first time. Anyway, I had this overwhelming feeling like my flesh was getting too big for my skin. My body was expanding inside me, including my brain. Everything was expanding, and the only thing that was keeping me in was my skin. And it just felt like everything was just getting bigger. And my cousin's a nurse, so she was like, oh, well, it's like blood pressure. That sounds like blood pressure in my head, and my brain was too big for my head. And but yeah, I think she checked my pulse and stuff and it was all normal. And it was to the point I nearly called an ambulance. And this is someone who's I don't trust doctors. It was a pretty scary experience. But I do believe that was also part of the Kundalini because it was that experience that led me to looking up what happened to me. And when I found, I think it was Christina Lopes on YouTube, I was like, oh my God. She was explaining the Kundalini activation. It was saying your whole life changes and you see things differently and your friends change and your likes change and all of this stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, that's been my whole life since the near-death experience, right? So I was like, shit. So then I started researching Kundalini and I was like, it's got to have been activated. And that started a whole other thing. So that's basically how the near-death experience, which I believe was the Kundalini activation through trauma, then leading to that expansion of, you know, what could be logically understood as blood pressure, which I had no trace of, which sort of kicked off my journey into wanting to know and needing to know about the Kundalini. And this is where it reminds me today to come back to the fact that I'm not choosing to do this. There is something inside me that is forcing me to do something, to keep going on this path, I fucking wanted to give up so bad today. I'm just done. I'm exhausted. I feel like I've lost my mind 100 times. My poor husband, I messaged him saying, hun, it's not over. And I don't know how to stop it. And I don't know what to do. And do you know what he said to me? Rome wasn't built in a day. Like, I'm just so fucking blessed to have someone next to me that's so beautiful. But I'm so tired. And so that's why this Gopi Krishna book, which I highly recommend, or the YouTube, helped me today, because he explains that to get you in a certain point of being, or there's certain practices that you can do to make it a little bit easier. And I mean, I don't know how easy it's ever going to be, but me flying by the seat of my pants is not working anymore at all. I feel like I'm losing my fucking mind. So I think the whole purpose of these videos now, for the moment, are just going to be the journey through trying to figure out what the fuck is going on with this Kundalini. I'm going to make the next video about the root to crown shoot through, because it's already nearly 20 minutes. And I wanted to keep these short for now. But yeah, I'm going to be explaining and going along through the experiences that occur, so that hopefully one day, it could be 10 years down the track, that somebody's doing the same thing and going, oh my God, it's part of it that you're going fucking mental. Yeah, it's part of it. Okay, thank you. Yeah, always comment. I've got my email and a couple of if you need. And obviously share with whoever needs it, this video, other videos, whatever.